So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm Chiara Arienti, the coordinator of Cochrane Rehabilitation. I'm also a researcher and a co-chair of the methodological working area. But today I'm here to introduce the next session about the education on evidence for rehabilitation community. Giulia and Nikolaos will talk with me around this important topic, and I think it could be a very important task also for the previous session for the low middle income countries. So thank you, Giulia and Nikolaos, to be here. I will give you a very just introduction of yourself, but please you can add what do you think. Giulia is one of the promoters of Cochrane Rehabilitation, and she's also the chair of our education working areas. Giulia is also an associate professor and a rehabilitation medicine consultant at the Department of Rehabilitation Medicine at the University of Malaysia. Nikolaos is a PRM physician and the research fellow at the University of Patras in Greece. And he is the president of European Board of PRM and the liaison with Cochrane Rehabilitation. So I think that we can start, and probably I will ask to Giulia if she can explain us what is the aim and the mission of our education working area. Giulia, the floor is yours.
All right. So thank you, Chiara. And yeah, I'm Giulia. So I'm from Malaysia. Now it's 4:45 in Malaysia PM. Right. So I'm very happy to be able to join this interview session with the Cochrane Rehab, of course. And now let's talk about what would be the education working area and mission. So the reason why the education working area was established when we first had Cochrane is to promote evidence-based clinical practices by providing education and training to the rehabilitation community. Right? We aim that the education and training that we provide will equip the rehabilitation community to make an evidence-based informed decision in their day-to-day clinical practice, that they are able to justify why they choose a certain management or certain drug over the other based on the existing evidence. This was clearly mentioned by Adina in the example of the brace or the corset in the lower back pain. So when they know the evidence, they know how to appraise, and they are trained already. They would know whether they should or should not prescribe the braces in those with back pain. And to achieve this EBM culture, you need to educate and create awareness among the rehabilitation community that EBM is relevant and important to all of us. And like Farooq said, some people think that it is not applicable to us, especially in lower middle income country. And most of the clinicians that I know also think that EBM skill comes with graduation from medical school or any higher degree, which is actually not true. A lot of them feel that do not know that EBM skill is something that they need to learn. And we hope that the training and education committee or working area the training education will bring changes in skills, attitudes, and behaviors of the rehabilitation communities. Yes, that's all, Chiara.
Yes, thank you, Giulia. And do you want to add a few words about what we already have done on in these 5 years? Because
5 years, all right.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say that we had a good start. I feel that we had a good start when we first started. I think the first activity of Cochrane education working area, rehab working area, was in Paris 2018, right? And we had a good start, but then, like any other activities with the pandemic, we had actually a significant impact on our activities, right? But nevertheless, since 2018, we have actually had 12 education training session or workshops since then, right? And one of our main activities is actually to conduct workshops in conferences, right? And we had workshops in all the ISPRM conferences since 2018 in Paris. The latest one, or the last one, it was in Orlando in 2020. And the good thing about this workshop it is a small group workshop where we have probably 6 facilitators, each facilitator to maybe 6 to 8 attendees. And we will introduce the key principle of EBM, skill of appraising, mainly systematic review, and also application evidence and clinical setting. We were also successful in teaming up with other associations like the ESPRM, the East Coast International Spinal Cord Injury Society, even the Philippine Association Rehab Medicine, and also the World Federation of Neuro Rehab by having joint session during their conferences. However, we noted some deficiency as well, right? Since our activities were very much conference related, only those who are registered to the conferences are able to attend it. And because the cost, I think our outreach is not that great, right? And we also feel that because most of the conferences that we have our workshop were PRM related conferences, we fail to reach those other rehabilitation professionals, right? Physiotherapists, occupational therapists, and others. So we have we have some deficiency, and there is definitely room for improvement.
Thank you, Julia. And Nikolaos, in this perspective, we know that the European bodies is one of our partners, the partners of Cochrane Rehabilitation. So, and during these 5 years, you supported all our activities, but probably one specific project. So, do you want to talk about the role of European bodies during these 5 years and how you have supported the work of Cochrane Rehabilitation?
Thank you, Chiara. Good morning to everybody, and I'm very pleased to be with you today. So we used to say that we act, and we indeed act as an alliance of bodies, all European bodies in rehabilitation, supporting the work of Cochrane. But I'm going to speak on behalf of the board, which is responsible for the education. So we started a project, and this is just an example. We started a project in 2017 with Cochrane team for an ebook on education, and I will explain what it is. So the Cochrane team screens the database, the Cochrane library, for articles that are relevant to rehabilitation. And these articles or publications are then transformed to educational summaries. So they are written in a plain language, and the language that can be very well understood by the, let's say, beginners, like students or trainees and students in faculties of rehabilitation. And then these articles are reviewed by, the summaries are reviewed by a team from our board and sent to the assembly, to the delegates for the final review. And if they become approved, then they are collected for the creation of an ebook. And the important thing is that this ebook will be an open book for everybody. So all rehabilitation professionals can benefit from that. Of course, the aim is to, the target group are the young rehab professionals, medical trainees, medical students, and also the students of physiotherapy and all other speech therapy or all other rehabilitation related faculties. It will be launched in summer. And this will be an ongoing project. So the Cochrane team related to rehabilitation will continue to screen literature and produce these summaries for the ebook. So this is a very nice project, and we are sure that we will go on.
Yes, thank you, Nikolaos. And basing on this experience, can you give us a comment about the importance of the education for all rehabilitation professionals, and if you can give us some priorities that you can think to be important that we plan for the next 5 years as education working area.
Okay, thank you for the question. As I explained before, I think that Cochrane Rehabilitation does a brilliant work. It's also very important to disseminate this work, and I think that you have you are doing it in a very nice way, creating contact with the whole rehabilitation world. So I think that you promote quite nicely all this knowledge and the work that you do through newsletters, the website, and so on. And we always try to contribute on that. But I think that there is another domain that we and mainly you have to invest. It's the training, especially of the young generation and of the beginners, because I think that researchers are already familiar with Cochrane and the research methodology. So I think that it's very important to start training in a very proper way the young generation of all rehabilitation professionals. So they have to become familiar with research methodology, but also with the proper way to interpret the results of and the product of Cochrane Rehabilitation. So you invest a lot in research, and you invest a lot in literature and the production of evidence. But I think that we have to teach, especially the young professionals, how to interpret the results of this work. So first of all, I think that we could create some seminars or webinars, perhaps in a larger scale, just to familiarize all those people with the basics of research methodology and on how to make research, how to make good quality research, which is very important, but also how to interpret the results of the research. Because this is probably the second part, is probably what we mostly need. Because if you are interested to deal with research and to be involved in research, then you can follow a program. But it's important for all of us to understand the product of the research and to correctly interpret the conclusions of scientific articles and systematic reviews and so on. So I think that a series of webinars, for example, with the basics will be extremely important, especially for the young professionals in rehabilitation.
Thank you, Nikolaos. I think that you highlighted if you don't know that we performed a survey, but you highlighted the results of our survey that are perfectly in line on what you are saying. Indeed, Julia, I think that we can say something about these results. Indeed, the topic about the importance of the methodological quality of evidence and rehabilitation is one of important topic emerged yesterday during our event, and today I think it is another important topic, and today I think that we can speak about the results of our survey that highlighted that the ABM principles and the EBM need is important for our professionals. So, Julia, do you want to say something about this point and probably to summarize the results of our survey?
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Right. So for the benefit of all the audience, I just like to just give a background on this survey that we did, right? So we did a survey, actually, the education working area specifically, to get opinion from our rehabilitation stakeholders on their needs and what do they want more in the next 5 years. So just a bit of a background of those who attempted or those who responded to the survey. If some of you over here have responded, I thank you very much for giving us that valuable information. And a lot, I would say that we have 284 responses, right? And half of them were clinician and actually a big majority is from Europe, and nearly 50% of them who answered have more than 10 years of clinical or research experience, right? And so those are the background of those who have answered this survey. So you can see that, like I said, there's a bit of bias here, mainly the clinician or PRM, MD, and then more from the European as well as those who are experienced. But nevertheless, when I look at the topic of priority, like Chiara said, it goes back to the same thing, which is methodology, right? And for example, when I look in specific, what do they want? It is the same thing, like how to read a systematic review, right? How to interpret the finding, research data, what is bias, how to look for bias, how to interpret bias. So very much in understanding the methodology. And the second trend that I realized is that it's just like what Abina had said. They want evidence on specific topics. For example, the one that they are specifically put here is evidence in multi-TBI, evidence of robotic rehab, evidence of sport injury, fluorotherapy, spasticity, and all those specific things. I suppose this is important for them to know what's the evidence, because only then you can apply it in practice. So those are the trend. And coming back to what Nicola has said about structured EBM training, and we did a survey prior to this with the AAP, the Americans, right? Academic Association of Physiatrists in US, right? So we did a survey in all the residency program or PMRS program, and yeah, very small number have actually a structured EBM education or curriculum in the PRM education. So I thought there is a need to have a structured training, because a structured training compared to ad hoc training, they are not the same. So I echo what Nikolaos said, the importance of training people on how to use evidence, because there are so many money and time invested on making the evidence, but it is not being used. Yes, Chiara. So those are a very short report on a very short glimpse of the survey result, and we will do more of the dissect the survey result in the workshop on the 16th of December.
Yes, thank you, Julia. So after all this consideration, just a last comment for you, Julia and Nikolaos. Do you see that we can give just two priorities for the future work of education working area? Nikolaos, very few words on this.
Yeah, I think that it would be nice to start as fast as possible with some webinars on. Everybody is now familiar with webinars and using internet for communicating. So I think it would be very nice to organize a short series of very basic seminars on how to understand scientific reporting and about scientific methodology. It's of paramount importance. And my experience from what I see from the European examination in PRM is that, because since last year we use systematically some questions on scientific research and research methodology, that the young generation of physiatrists is not so much familiar with that. So we would expect something better. But I think that we need to provide them and give them the chance and to all rehabilitation professionals to become more familiar with research methodology and the way to correctly interpret the evidence, and of course use it. But the first step is to train everybody to understand better what we read. So I think it's the most essential thing for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Julia, do you want to add something? Or just to confirm what Nikolaos said?
All right. So
yes,
right.
Please.
To end this up, I hope whoever, all the attendees here, I know that you realize the importance of evidence-based medicine, and the priority for me is I still feel is creating awareness, because I feel that a lot of people still think that evidence-based medicine come with medical graduation. So without creating the awareness, they need to have to learn or need to have the skill. Even if we do the seminar, if we are in competition with a clinical topic, we will still lose. That's how I feel, right? If you have parallel and there's a clinical topic on robotic rehab, we will lose out, because they think that if EBM, I know it. So for me, is how do you create the awareness so that they come to our educational or training session. Thank you, Chiara.